You have arrived at your destination.
That's right, Wildlings. You have arrived at your destination. You wanted the best. You got the best. The hottest podcast in Louisville, Kentucky, the Sean vs. Wild podcast. You guys know me. I'm your host, per usual, the man, the myth, the Sean Thriller Smith, the guy putting rad back into talk radio. And it is Tuesday, April 10th, episode 72. And as promised, we're talking to NYC-based hip-hop band Oxymorrons, straight out of NYC. I'm talking to drummer Matty Mayz, and we're talking all about this band, challenging cultural perceptions. We're talking about them being multi-diverse, multi-talented, blending hip-hop with rock and roll, and this is going to be a great conversation. Matty and I hit it off really well. We actually talk about a myriad of things, guys. The important stuff: pizza, sandwiches, the best breakfast cereal, as well as, being drummers and rock and roll music and hip-hop music and all that good sort of thing. It's a great conversation. I think I made a friend for life on this one. This is one of the cool things about doing the podcast, having my job. Sometimes you're talking to somebody for the very first time, and it just all works out, man. It all clicks, and like I said, Matty, big shout out. Thanks so much for doing the show. I had a great time recording it. Everyone out there listening, and I know you're going to have a good time listening to it. Also, later on in the show, we're checking out Oxymorrons' brand new single, Brunch, which is out right now. If you haven't yet, pick that up on iTunes. Go check out the video on YouTube. I have all the links below, guys. So just click that, make that stuff happen for you. And while you're at it, if you're on YouTube, go ahead and please subscribe to the Sean vs. Wild podcast page on YouTube. Never miss an episode. If listening to podcasts on YouTube are your thing. I'm trying to build that channel up, man. All the other stuff does great. The YouTube channel, I think we can make something happen with that. This interview is all thanks to Chrissy Borsellino, so big shout out. She's the publicist for Oxymorrons, as well as she worked with Baby Yeah way back in the day. So that's how we got all this taken care of. So I want to give a big shout out to Chrissy. Hopefully this is the first of many bands coming our way, listeners, coming our way, Wildlings, from Chrissy. So thanks so much. I appreciate that. Also, big thanks to the sponsors this week. I'm talking about Audible. Audible's an Amazon company. It's the place to go for your audiobooks. And if you like books like me, Audible's going to give you a free 30-day trial just for listening to the Sean vs. Wild podcast. All you have to do is go to audibletrial.com/Sean vs. Wild, audibletrial.com/SEANVSWILD, and sign up for your free 30 days. Once you sign up, you have over 180,000 audiobooks for you to choose from, guys. So if you want to check out Ready Player One, if you've seen the movie, you're pumped, but then you've heard, oh man, the book is totally different, you should check out the book. Bam. Check out the book, man. It's narrated by Will Wheaton, for crying out loud. Also just saw that Pet Sematary just came to Audible, and it's narrated by Dexter himself, Michael C. Hall. I got to get that. I'm picking that up myself. And you can pick it up too. Again, audibletrial.com/Sean vs. Wild. Sign up for your free 30 days. All right? Got it? Cool. Now go enjoy your audio book. Also, got to give a shout out to the OG sponsor. You guys know who I'm talking about, Audiophile Inc. Shane at Audiophile Inc. has been printing all my merchandise for years and years and years, whether it's with the podcast or with a myriad of bands. Myriad twice in the intro, guys. I'm knocking it out of the park with my $10 words here. But Shane's been there taking care of me since day one, and he can take care of you too, man. So if you got a podcast, you've got a band, you've got an idea, you got to market that shit on a t-shirt, bro. So he's going to get you taken care of. T-shirts, tank tops, sweatshirts, whatever the weather decides it's going to be, he's got the thing to print your idea on it, all right? And all you have to do is go to audiophileInc.com, talk to Shane. He's going to give you the best deal in town, no matter what town you live in, and he ships to all 50 nifty United States. So that's AUDIOPHILEINK.com. Talk to Shane, tell him the Wild Man sent you. Also, as always, big thanks to Joe Brock for booping the dials week in and week out. I've been putting him through the ringer twice. Last week, he had to boop the dials, and now we're back to once a week, at least for the time being. So, Joe, thanks so much for booping them dials. Guys, before we right off into podcast world, I got to say this, right off into podcast world, whatever. Before we start the show, I don't know where I was going with that one, but before we start the show, you guys know I'm a big wrestling fan. And I got to level with you guys. I'm a huge wrestling fan. I love it. I'm crazy about it. Hopefully you guys checked out last week's episode. 2 episodes, like I was saying, both wrestling related. Did those with Jake from Never Nervous, an awesome Louisville publication. But yeah, WrestleMania and NXT TakeOver, that was this past weekend. That was this past Saturday and Sunday. And guys, TakeOver, if you're not a wrestling fan, you will be after you watch NXT TakeOver. Loved it. Absolutely crazy about it. Not going to spoil anything for you, but I just want to let you know, quality show, great pay-per-view. WrestleMania, what a sight to see. What a spectacle. It's always going to be the biggest wrestling night of the year. It's like Christmas, but for wrestling, you know. And but it was filled with many ups. It was filled with many downs. Some downs more than ups. But that's wrestling for you. That's WWE, and it's not going to please everybody all at once. So, and the wrestling community online hates it no matter what. But you know, I enjoy it. So, guys, if you haven't, check out NXT TakeOver. Watch WrestleMania. A lot of big stuff coming down the pipeline on that. So I'm not going to waste too much of your time. I spent 2 hours last week talking to you all about wrestling. Now it's time to talk to you all about Oxymorrons. Again, my conversation with Matty Mayz is right now. So crank up your tape decks. Let's get wild. So, Matty, you know, I like to think that Queens, New York is exactly like how I see it on TV, where every fat guy gets a smoking hot wife and he just works at FedEx. Would you say that's an accurate assumption of Queens, New York?
There's definitely that exists. I promise that there are definitely. Oh my god, that's a great reference. That show is a lot. That show is super underrated in my opinion. By the way, King of Queens is actually a much funnier show now that I watch it on whatever late night sitcom channel,
yeah,
as opposed to when it was actually on. But Kevin James. Oh my goodness. Queens is so funny, man. Because I think that we've talked about this as a band before, but I think it's definitely one of the most diverse boroughs. I think that there's so many different pockets with so many different ethnicities, and even for me, I live out in Ridgewood, Queens right now, and I would say that my area is absolutely nothing like Southside Jamaica, where the other guys are from, and absolutely nothing like Astoria, and absolutely nothing like Flushing. So, yeah, man, it's just a giant melting pot of everything, in my opinion.
Well, I'll definitely have to go, especially if there's a smoking hot wife for every fat guy. That makes me feel good.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
That gives me hope in my life. Let me ask you a question, too. Go ahead.
No, I was just more thinking about if the opposite is the case, and for every small, skinny guys, they're just a really, really large wife.
Yeah, perfect.
It depends on the borough. Maybe that's a Brooklyn thing.
That's a win-win situation here, guys. No matter your shape and size, you're going to win. All right? But yeah, I was going to say, if you're cruising down New York now, see, I personally, I've spent a little time in NYC, Manhattan, a few places in the boroughs. And I'm just a tourist, and you can spot a tourist probably a mile away. And everybody wants to talk to you about the pizza. Let me ask you.
Oh yeah.
Are you more of a pizza guy? Or are you more of a deli sandwich on the corner type of person?
Oh man, I'm super torn. I think I honestly, I'm definitely more of a bodega guy. I think that, I know all the people who work in my bodega by first names, and we shoot the shit and chat it up. But I am a sucker for a good slice of pizza, and I will go out of my way. I think on a regular basis, I want to do more bodega stuff. But if I'm going to have pizza, then I'll make the moves. I'll travel a little bit more.
Yeah, I feel that. I do like that when you walk down the street, you can get a $1 slice of pizza. And back when I was touring, our singer, Kevin, would always be like, dude, this is New York pizza. This is the great slice. This is the great pie. And trust me, in Kentucky, nobody calls shit pie. Nobody calls it a slice. It's just you're getting pizza, It's just if you have a drink, you're going to have a Coke, no matter if it's Sprite or if it's Coke or it's Pepsi, you're having a Coke. So, but it'd be dude, we made it, man. This is New York pizza right here. I'm this is $1 pizza that someone probably, that's probably the worst pizza in New York, and you're stoked on it.
Well, there's like, especially like back in like college and stuff, like there was the place on St. Mark's called Two Bros, and that was like the dollar pizza slice, and there was a special, you get 2 slices with like a can of soda for $2.75. And like, listen, the best thing about dollar slice, like if you're broke as fuck, like that's the way to go, man. Like you will never like go hungry in that sense when you're talking about the dollar slice. And man, I'd much rather just like take a little bit more of a trip for like a better $2.50 slice.
Right, exactly.
Or like the better $3 slice.
Well, do you have Little Caesars there? Do you have Little Caesars in New
There are, again, not so many in this area.
I mean, I don't ever remember seeing one, but it's like, yeah, maybe I'll just make a little extra trip to get a $5 whole pizza. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. And then the quantity over quality is always a thing, though. Like, even just to get a whole pie at Dollar Slice, it's $8. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's what you like. It's like basically the cost of like a beer in some places in New York. So like, you kind of like weigh your options at that point.
That was another one of my favorite things. That was another one of my favorite things. Like touring, people would be like, "Dude, we got to go out. We're going to go to the bar. There's a place down the street. I'm telling you, man, $5 PBRs all night long. It's going to be the deal of the century." And I'm like, man, I come from a place where PBR is 75 cents on Wednesdays.
Oh my God. Listen, and especially in New York, like I will tell you this, man, like we were literally shocked on the road, some of the prices of just beers and cocktails. I remember oh my God, where was it? We were in North Dakota, and we were playing like a Friday night in North Dakota. And I just remember, like, we have, like, an assumption in our head. Like, again, we're not expecting New York prices, like, a $10, $12 cocktails. But, we're still thinking about, like, the whole, like, maybe $5 to $7 thing. We go to a bar after the show, and everything on the menu is $3. And I was, like, blown. I was like, oh, is this, like, a special you do? It's like, no, dude, this is just a Saturday night. Like, if you want a Jack and Coke, it's, like, $3.25. If you want a PBR, $2, and we were like blown away by that. Like this, like I just never thought that. Like, of course, like that's where you are. Like, but that was just mind blowing to us.
And that was the night that the entire band accidentally got wasted.
Accidentally on purpose.
Accidentally on purpose got wasted for $15 in public.
Oh my God! It was just like I guess there's some places where it's like, well, if you can just drink, but like that is like a dangerous level of cheap for alcohol.
And I figure too, in North Dakota, I can't imagine there to be much else to do there other than
Oh, listen, that's fair. Like again, like we spent just a couple of days up there when we were just on the road, but like trust me, there wasn't much to do up there. But well, you get something to do you spend $10 and you'll have yourself a good time.
Right.
Any bar you go to in the area, apparently.
Exactly. Well, big shout out to North Dakota. But guys, this isn't just the Sean versus pizza prices and Little Caesars being a great deal and $5 PBR podcast. This is actually the Sean versus Wild podcast, believe it or not. And I'm hanging out with Matty Mayz from Queens, New York, and his band Oxymorrons. That's what we're talking about here today on the show. And guys, if you like hip hop, if you like rock, if you like rap, if you like metal, I feel like anybody that is into music can easily gravitate towards Oxymorrons. Matty, let me go ahead and just tee you up right here. Give the listeners here, because I'm sure there'll be a lot of new listeners here checking out your band for the first time. Give them some background deets on Oxymorrons and what you guys are up to.
Well, first of all, Oxymorrons with 2 R's, not one. So that's something that we like to chant at shows in general, just to kind of keep it in people's heads. Apparently there is an old 80s metal group named the Oxymoron or something like that, that with the 1 R, the proper spelling. And once the band, like, again, they made up like one album 30 years ago and but still had a patent on the name. And we were trying, like when the name was like created between Dee and Kid, the two lead vocalists, they wanted something crazy like 10 G's to buy the name off them. So they were like, fuck it, we're going to add an extra R and not deal with any of this bullshit. So Oxymorons with 2 R's to start off. But yeah, man, the band is Dee and Kid, who are the 2 lead vocalists, are brothers and not literal brothers, like same mom, same dad. So they both were doing music like separately. on different wavelengths. So like for the majority of their lives, you know, D was in a group, and then KI was on another, like doing his own thing. And then finally, like kind of fates had it, and they decided to work together in a family sense, but also make music together. And I think that like both of them, they grew up in like Southside Jamaica, Queens, and you know they were kind of not, I wouldn't consider like more outcasts, but more of the people who like kind of the oddballs. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't just like Queens hip hop all day. Like D loved listening to like Billy Joel and Queen as a kid, and KI loved NERD, and he loved heavier rock and stuff like that. So when they formed the group, you know, the people who like, including myself and our guitarist Adam and our bassist Joe and Jaffe, who's our newest member, like it was all about a bunch of us who were like totally comfortable being weird and liking different genres of music. And how we kind of came about things is like, you know what, nothing makes sense. So that's why this is all going to make sense. You know, it was like, fuck genres, forget boundaries, none of that stuff. Like, we're just going to make the music that we like and love and work together doing that. And whatever kind of box anyone else wants to put it in, they can have fun, but we don't want to define ourselves by anything.
I was going to say, the sound itself is just so eclectic. So, you know, it kind of brings together two kind of opposing, I don't know what you would, I guess, two opposing genres. Because a lot of times if people are really into hip hop or rap, they might not 100% be into like rock and roll or heavier music, and then vice versa. So when I checked you guys out, I thought, man, this is like I don't know, like a bombastic, heavier rap project, you know, or hip hop project, you know? So, and the fact that you guys do it full band, I thought that was amazing too.
Yeah, dude, it's like, it's been a funny evolution over the past couple of years, but like, you know, at the end of the day, like, first of all, one thing that we've been kind of screaming around is like rap is the new rock and roll. And we've talked about that for a while, but you know, there's so many foundations of rock music that are predominantly, you know, like preferably black, you know what I mean? And you know, I think for the guys being two like black men from Queens, you know, it's always just like, this is the music you should be listening to, or this is how you're supposed to act, or this is how you're supposed to feel about things. And, you know, and for me, not that like to dive in so closely to race and ethnicity, but, you know, for me, I grew up in Spring Valley, New York, and, you know, in a predominantly like Latino neighborhood. And, you know, like I was like, I didn't care for the, like, I liked hip hop, but you know what I mean? I didn't want to just like wear baggy pants and fitted hats and do all that stuff that I used to do. You know what I mean? I was like the outcast punk kid.
Right.
You know, and you know, it's one of the things that's been so fun as a band is like, we all were kind of weird in our own way growing up, and like, it just all kind of culminated and fitted together. You're like, you know what? We love being weird. You know, we love being different, and we all just love being ourselves.
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that too, because I think anybody that starts a band, you know, I can't speak for anybody that might have their own solo project or might be a singer-songwriter or make beats and rap and stuff like that. But I think people that if you're in a band, you have to be in a kind of an outcast and kind of an outsider, and you have to have an eclectic group of like-minded outsiders with you to make the project work. That's like every band that I've ever come across, toured with, played with. It's always just a group of kind of outsiders that got together and are creating a musical project. It's not, oh yeah, we were the 5 most popular kids in our school and everything's great.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I always laugh about this because we had this conversation recently because we've been doing this for a little bit. You know, it's a culmination of what this band is now with the 6 of us. Like, we just laugh, like, how the hell did we all find each other? Because, like, it just, like, besides, like, the musical aspect of it, like, you know, like, personality-wise and things, like, for me, when I was growing up, like, I was, like, the outcast, like, dirty scene kid. Like, I was a big Warped Tour head and Bamboozle, and all I wanted to listen to was, like, Under Oath and August Burns Red, and like all the like post-hardcore and like Glassjaw and stuff like that.
Right.
But again, I was like still surrounded a predominantly Latino community, and then like I was always talking about that. Like I love Pokemon like obscenely, like more than anyone should. I used to like play competitively, and when I joined the guys, and we all started trying to like Ki, like one of the vocalists, he was just like, yeah, dude, all I've been doing is like watching Dragon Ball Z and anime growing up, and like listening to more like rock and new metal stuff. It's weird like how we have like this weird common ground where like we were outcasts in different ways, and that's like our unifying factor as a group.
Yeah, and you're actually the second competitive Pokemon player to grace the Sean versus Wild podcast. Actually,
Really?
yes.
That's amazing.
Lee Jennings from a band called The Funeral Portrait, and if you were into like a band, say like My Chemical Romance, you would love The Funeral Portrait. Check them out, guys.
Amazing.
Also,
I'm going to write that down for myself.
yes, also a competitive Pokemon player. So, yeah, and I miss the ball on anime, and that's my thing. Is like whenever anime and Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z were really popular, I was like maybe in 7th grade. So like I was kind of maybe 1 year too old for it, but I feel like I missed the boat on it, missed the bus, if you will. And so I'm going to need you to, hit me with some choice episodes or something to check out or some anime to check out. Here, what's some of the best?
To help you out with that. Well, I think that one of the biggest mistakes that people make, like I think the two biggest animes that people immediately go to are like Dragon Ball Z and Naruto. And don't get me wrong, they're super great animes as well, but it's super long and there's a lot of episodes and it's a really big commitment. So I think that like, rather than going like, what are the most popular animes out? I think like you kind of have to go like classics. Rurouni Kenshin was like one of the first ones that I watched as a kid. You know what I mean? That was really cool. Or even something like a little bit more short, just to like get you into like the feel. Like I think it is on Netflix. Samurai Champloo.
I'll check it out.
A really, really good one. Again, it's basically it's about these like two samurais who meet up from different areas of their life, and this one girl who's trying to find her father's killer, yada yada yada, and like the whole background track is all hip hop based. So it's like a really, really cool backing track and like a really like easy story to follow with like great like kind of like early 2000s, late 90s kind of style animation. So it's like a very specific style to it. The dialogue is really interesting. So again, I think that like not necessarily going for most popular, but there's like a couple classics that at least can like kind of spark your interest into the anime. I guess it's a genre medium. Let's go with medium.
Yeah,
the anime medium.
Well, hey man, thank you very much. I'll check it out 100%. Especially the hip hop soundtrack. You can't go wrong with a good soundtrack.
Oh yeah. It's super cool, man.
Which reminded me, do you remember back in the day on MTV when they would play the Shaw Brothers Kung Fu films with Wu-Tang Clan doing commentary over it?
Oh my God, I do remember that.
Yeah, I just thought about that when you were like, this is the anime with a hip-hop soundtrack. I was like, oh my God, I remember watching when Wu-Tang would do commentary over the old...
I remember that.
over the old jams.
That's so funny. That literally the last thing... I haven't thought about that since I probably saw it.
Right. For the first time in 18 years. This
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, so you grew up, actually liking a lot of the exact same bands that I grew up into, and the kind of genre. I grew up a Warped Tour kid, and
awesome.
Love those bands. I'm a drummer also, so take a lot of influence. Yeah, all the cool people are drummers, and if you're not a drummer, like, sorry, you can't sit with us. But
sorry, everyone who's not a drummer.
Right? Yeah.
Talking over here.
Yeah, you guys are probably hanging out with girls, and we're doing a podcast, so suck it.
Yeah.
But
what are you doing going out with your friends and being all cool and talking to girls? We have a podcast going on, guys.
Yeah, sorry.
We're the real winners here.
Yeah, exactly. This lasts forever, guys. The internet is forever. So, you have your fleeting moment. Us drummers, we're eternal. But yeah, what brought you from what brought you from like the hardcore, post-hardcore to hip hop drumming?
Again, this is one of those things that's really weird, and I don't know. I think that like the majority of the music that I liked growing up was like I would consider aggressive. I don't think I wanted to stay too but it was like always emotional and it was always aggressive. And I think that as a drummer, like for myself, like I grew up playing drums. Like how I learned to play drums is like jazz and in the church. You know what I mean?
Right.
And outside of that, I was my rebellious, just like, what, I don't want to do that anymore. And like everything has to be screaming and I want destruction and aggression and angst. And that's all the things that I want in my music. And, I think that when when the Oxys found me, when I found the Oxys, vice versa, whatever you want to call it. There was a lot of that same type of emotion. And I wouldn't even consider it aggression, but like I liked music that felt like it was doing something different, and it was really driven from like how the artist felt a lot of the times. And again, I don't think that has to do necessarily with crossing genres, because again, like even though the band itself is, I guess, hip hop based in a sense, I think the last thing I feel like we are is just a regular hip hop group.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that like me coming to hip hop, like I've always enjoyed hip hop myself. But I think that there was just like a kind of fun in between where like, this is the type of drummer that I am, and I can bring something super cool and different to people who are rapping, or I can bring something really cool and different to like the type of music that they want to make. And, and I think that was like kind of that cross-contamination that made this more fun for me.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a pretty natural progression. Like as soon as I asked the question, like how did you get into hip hop, really after kind of like contemplating all the stuff that I'd heard from you guys, I'm like, it's actually a pretty natural progression to go from like more like emotional or more heavier type of music into what Oxymorrons does, because it's packaged in a lot of, as far as, okay, and again, this is just like my opinion from what I've heard, but it kind of has a very contemporary feel, the sound on the recordings and things like that, but also like there's just something underlining that would make me consider you guys more like, say, a band like Body Count. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think
just as opposed to like, your normal mainstream, radio hip hop.
Oh yeah. Well, this is the thing. Is it's like, I think there's like this giant like stigma about like the moment people hear rapping or people like rap or like speaking in cadence, it's immediately thrown in the hip hop genre. And I know that there's like a lot of basis to that in a sense, but like, we've just been trying to make music that we like. And, we just kind of let whoever wants to label it the way they want to is up to them. I think, especially with our live show, that's been like a super big thing for us. We're headlining Highland Ballroom in New York on the 30th, which we've been practicing and we're super excited for. We have a bunch of new material we're going to be playing. But the live show for us has always been like, let's be rock stars, man. Let's thrash things around and run across the stage and try to make this as fun for the audience as it is for us. I think that type of energy and that like type of aggression and stuff like that, it's like we try to translate what we've been playing live into tracks.
Right.
And we want like kind of raging, like kick a small child, flip a table, like having the best time ever type thing. Not that I approve kicking children.
Not that I approve of flipping over tables. That could be very dangerous. Haven't you watched WWE?
Oh my God, yes. I want to have fun with it. You know what I mean? And I want it to be different, and I want to invoke emotion, whether it's like, oh my God, I just want to party with these guys, or it's like, it's like all this angst that we have. Let's move it into like a musical sense. And I don't know. I feel like I'm just running in circles at this point, but I think that's the most fun thing about this for us.
Right.
Is that like, no genre. We just want to perform awesome. And the way that we perform, we want to try to make tracks that make us feel like we're performing.
Yeah. And plus, how awesome is that? Like I said, it can really bring a lot of different crowds of people together to have one awesome live experience. You know what I'm saying? If you can go from having 1 million fans and now you can have 2 million fans, why wouldn't you? You know what I'm saying? So
exactly,
you're just combining all the flavors into one delicious rock and roll meatloaf, or one delicious rock and roll dollar slice. You know what I'm saying? Pepperoni and sausage.
One of the things that was so funny for us is we did the show a couple of years ago, and we were at Codfish Hollow in Iowa. And not that we had no preconceived notion of Iowa, but we played this 4th of July show in a literal barn for like several like like 700, 800 people, and it was insane. You know, it was, again, just during the day. It was 4th of July. It was a sick venue. We had such a good time. But when we got off the stage, not to say that this was actually the case, but, you know, people came up to us, like families and like older adults and very young kids, and it's like, we never listened to hip hop before, but we'll give that a try now because you guys exist. And like,
right.
That's kind of awesome. You know what I mean? Like, just like the idea of just like being able to change someone's mind about a whole genre of music is just kind of sick. You know what I mean? Like, if I would love to hear, again, I would love to hear a band that would make me love country. If that's like,
yeah, exactly.
or I would love to hear a band that would like really get me into disco for some reason. You know what I mean? I think that there's just so many things that kind of weave in and out of each other. And I like these bands that like kind of run the cusp of not being anything specific, because, you know, that just opens up people's eyes to listen to more music in general.
Yeah, exactly. Sounds like you had a real Back to the Future moment when it's like, just imagine somebody come up to you, Matty, that was really interesting music. Yeah, that's rock and roll. You guys might not be ready for that, but the kids are going to love it.
Exactly.
It's so funny too. You're talking about your tour stories. You're like, yeah, I have no preconceived notion about North Dakota. I have no preconceived notion about Iowa. Well, you might be the only one that doesn't have a preconceived notion about those states.
Well, you know, listen, man, like I feel like I'm just such like a jaded New Yorker. You know, just like I don't like, besides literally touring, like before the band really like started, like we started touring a lot more. Like I was a New Yorker who didn't leave New York unless he absolutely had to.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I already live in the best place on earth. I don't need to go anywhere else.
Yeah, it's not even about like just having it be so much better. Just like I like, you know, New York's super diverse, and like I can get all the different things that I need from all the boroughs. So yeah, that's all I need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, literally.
And it wasn't until like I really started reaching out and going to other places, like, oh, this is like pretty normal here too, and like I understand why people could live here. Like,
right? You know, I never had a preconceived notion, wink, about Utah, but I tell you what. I've talked about that on the podcast many times. Utah may be like one of my favorite states to have ever been in. It's beautiful, but the people are awesome and the people are cool. And there's like a really great scene for like punk rock and rock in general in some of the places.
Oh, dude!
But I imagine going out there being like, we're in the middle of you know, I don't know. Like I imagine everybody to just be like blonde hair, blue eyed, and strange. Yeah.
Well, you know, dude, even when we were in Salt Lake City, again, I would say like I had no idea. Like it was like what are your opinions on Salt Lake City, Utah? I'd be like, I have no opinions. I don't know what people are like there. I don't know anything about it. You know what I mean? But two things happened to me. First of all, I'll probably get a lot of shit for this. Some of the best Mexican food I ever had in my life was in Salt Lake City, Utah, for some reason. And then also the venue that we played there, this was probably like a year and a half ago. We played this like tiny like DIY kind of punk rock room, and it was like packed out for like they somehow fit like 200 people in this space that definitely shouldn't have had more than 50. And we've never had more fun of a time playing on like the tiniest stage with like literally people like surrounding the stage. We're basically on it. Like the audience might as well have been one with the stage, and we had like we had a blast, man. So listen, shout out to Salt Lake City, Utah.
Yeah, dude. Shout out to SLC, guys. If you're listening, I know you're listening. I got some fans up in SLC. So you guys have changed my mind for the better. We played a venue, very similar story there. It's called the Loading Dock. And turns out it was an actual loading dock.
There we go.
And it was awesome. It was a great show. But yeah, it's like one of those things. The scene just thrives there. But yeah, and also I want to kind of kick it back a little bit to something that I put down in my notes, and you've already mentioned it, but you said that rap is the new rock, and I saw that was on your social media. And if I may rant about that for a second, I agree 100%, and I may have mentioned this before, but if not, the thing is I do think rap is the new rock, because rock and roll music, in many ways, like has become so safe, and everybody's kind of become so uniform in many ways. And you know, think back to like 80s rock and roll, where there's a lot of excess and there's a lot of decadence, and people are walking around, strutting around, saying like how awesome they are, and that if you disagree, like, well, fuck you, I don't care. And
Yeah.
the thing is like now rock and roll in many ways, like, if you turn on a mainstream rock and roll station, you've got some dude with a beard strumming an acoustic guitar, kicking a bass drum, and talking about, I don't know, carving wood or something. It just seems like there's so much safety.
That carving wood band again.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. I mean, you get a band like, I don't know, Arcade Fire or something like that, and I'm just like, there's no danger. There is no pomp and circumstance, if you will. It's just all like so many, not all rock and roll, but I'm just saying so much mainstream rock and roll has just taken a turn that way. Whereas rap, I feel like, is the complete opposite. Once like the mid 90s kind of hit, it's just like rappers are like the brand new rock stars, and they're the ones that literally are just killing it. And like they walk around with, acting like they're $1 million, even if they don't have $1 million. And that's like the confidence and the swag that like everybody that I liked out of my music. You know what I'm saying? I like that confidence. Yeah. And so just to rant for a bit, I think I agree with you 100%. Maybe not in the same way that you guys take it, but I've said that many a time, that rap stars are the new rock stars. Rap is the new rock.
For sure. I think it's like two things for me. It's like an evolution, first of all. Like, I think that there's a lot about, and again, I'm not saying this for all rock bands across it, but, like, I feel like in regards to musical style, like that we've hit a weird plateau in like the rock genre. And there's like two things that like really throw that out for me. And the first thing is like, I literally just have been on like a Spotify, like modern rock station. And I just was like, man, this all is just like kind of in the same vein. Everything kind of just blends into one another. You know what I mean? I know that's like true of like a lot of hip hop groups also, but you know what I mean? But like, I felt like the genres just become very stagnant,
right?
And not pushing the envelope anymore. And, and the other thing that I was talking about this with the band, it's like, I have a very hard time thinking about like, when we think of like classic rock bands or bands in general that have like pushed the envelope and like changed the future. Like, our generation doesn't have one of those, which is kind of mind-blowing to me, because the only one that always comes ahead for people to me was like, what is the band that like everyone was going to remember 20, 30 years from now that's from like, let's say 2000 on?
That's so funny that you say that.
Radiohead. It's like,
I've had this exact same conversation on the podcast, so you're blowing my mind right now, Matty. We are totally connected on that subject, because I've just thought, what band that formed, after 2000 would be, the next band to be, the next big thing, or would be the band that would say be inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for their, just total contribution to music. And I was like, I can't even think of a band that formed less than, say, 20 years ago that would fit that category at all, because all the huge bands that most people say, like, I think you're about to say a band like Radiohead, or people might say
that's not 2000s though.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's what I'm saying. Like, that's the one that everyone jumps to, but it's like, that's not really the 2000s. And then, I just like keep thinking to myself, like, what, like maybe Arcade Fire will kind of like hit into that stride, or like maybe like a bigger indie band like that, but like either someone has like kind of fallen off, or like they're out. Like, I'm not expecting like every band's album collection to be flawless,
right?
You know what I mean? But like, there's not bands that are consistently still making music that are like pushing the envelope still and selling out stadiums and like really killing it all the time, And I think that it has to do with like not trying to progress the genre at all, or like where their music is going.
Right. I guess rock and roll in many ways has already proved itself, and now, I'm sure, to be mainstream, they're like, okay, well, we just need something that sells. We don't need anything new, bigger, or better. We just need enough to sell records, and we'll put you on TV and then that sort of thing. But yeah, even bands like the big bands that most people mention, Radiohead, Muse, Foo Fighters, Queens of the Stone Age, all these bands formed in the 90s. All these bands are over 20 years old.
Man. Like, yeah, just like, I think that like, just because again, their peak is hitting the early 2000s, but they've been around for a minute.
Right.
because I use Foo Fighters as an example, and I've used Muse as an example for that exact conversation. The only band that kind of hits that cusp, and I wouldn't even consider them like, well, I kind of proving my own point wrong, but like Blink-182 was like the only like band that I felt like hit stadium status, and their first album was in like '99. You know,
I believe their first album was actually even way before that than '99.
Oh yeah, no, Cashmere Cat was what, '97 again?
Well, you got to think like American Pie came out in like 1999 and 2000, and they were big enough to be in the movie.
I'm proving my point wrong as well. Yeah, it's just like I can't even think of like a group in the 2000s that's like really doing that. And you know, and the thing about rap, like again, now it's becoming like a little bit of a mantra for us in a sense, but I think that there's so much. Because it's a new genre, like hip hop is a new genre still. Like people forget like that it's not a super old genre, and like we've recently started hitting a stride of the cool progressions of it, you know, and people doing interesting stuff and doing things that are like kind of like pushing the envelope a lot. And again, when we talk about like rap as a new rock and roll, it's like people are confident. Well, like people in hip hop are confident that they're doing something new and they're doing something creative and they're doing something innovative. And I think it's like they get to have that braggadocious mentality for it.
Yeah. And I love it. I just love it that No,
it's great.
You know, you got to have, to create some of your best art here, is you got to have something to prove. You got to have a chip on your shoulder. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that whole genre of hip hop and rap and things like that, that's why these people appeal to me. These artists and stuff appeal to me so much more now. Is like, there can even be a rapper that I think is total garbage, but some of them, like their message or maybe the way they look, just like the gall that like, man, you really tatted up your face, brother. You know, I'm like, that's pretty, that's pretty bold, man. You're about what, 19, 20 years old? Okay, man. You know what? Yeah, I'm into it. I've subscribed to you, you know?
Oh, dude. I remember like, again, this is not a shit on any artist, but like I had a very hard time like dealing with Lil Yachty when he like was first hitting the scene. Right. You know, and for me, just like this sounds like nursery rhyme like music. You know what I mean? Like with a lot of auto-tune and stuff like that. But you know, and then you like you follow the artist and you're just like, hey man, I'm just trying to have fun and like make music that I enjoy and like kind of just like do like I want this silly persona and I want to be able to like make this kind of music. And he just keeps killing it. And then like, how can you talk shit about someone like that? Exactly. You know what I mean? It's like, if you, and you know, when people own up to it, you know what I mean? They're just like, you know, this is what I do and I'm making music I want to make and I want, however you guys are going to handle it, then you just go ahead. Like I have the uttermost respect for any artist who just kind of owns up to that shit.
Yeah. I mean, in this day and age, there's so many, you just got to go out there. You just got to make your art and you know what? Don't apologize for it. Just make it, throw it out in the world, make it happen. I cannot believe that you brought that up, that subject, because I have talked about this on the podcast before. So, Matty, did we just become best friends? Yep.
Did we just become best friends?
My mind is blown.
I'm on your drum set.
and we could really do that because we both have drum sets. So this could happen.
There we go.
You know, maybe when all this is said and done, we'll get an apartment together. So that's an Anchorman reference. There you go. Bam.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what. Let's go ahead and give the listeners there we've talked about your music. We've talked a lot about it. Let's go ahead and give them a sweet sample, a taste, if you will, with your new single. You have prepared a piece here for us. Your new single, Brunch. Tell us about Brunch. Tell us what it's about. Give them the deets.
Well, you know, Brunch is funny because I don't know if any of us knew that it was going to be called Brunch when we initially were creating the song, but it was just kind of like living your life unapologetically. Yes. You know what I mean? And I think that was kind of like the message of just do what you like. You know what I mean? And I know that like brunch is kind of a lavish thing in general for people to enjoy. Right. You know, whether it's the weekend or during the day. And I think that was just kind of like the funny kind of core word behind it. That was just like, you know, just everyone just live your life to the fullest and do whatever you want. And you know what? If you want to wake up and have Captain Crunch and a mimosa, then you know what? Go live your life and do what you want to do, man.
Exactly.
They're very hippie of us in a sense.
That's fantastic. Well, listeners, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to grip it and rip it right now, dude. Guys, this is Oxymorrons with Brunch.
nothing crunch and mimosa. And I will be turned up by lunch. My life is such a roller coaster. Live, drink, smoke, do all the things that you like. Drink, smoke, do all the things that you Shout out to my frenemies. Put him on that curb. Fuck that bitch getting on my nerves. Little mercy, but I'm still gon' swerve. Oh yeah, he's styling now. Hear what you heard. Sip that drink to my solo burst. Hear about balls, all chingo surf. AKI, I'm smiling now. I'm so fresh. Fuck Sunday, I'm always best. Swag is in my fucking flesh. Swag is in my fucking flesh. Gold is laid up on my neck. C3PO is on my chest. Live your life until you rest. Live your life until you go home. Live your life till you go home. Oh, yeah. Feet don't fail me now. Oh, feet don't fail me now.
All right, everybody. That was Brunch by Oxymorrons, and I am back here with Matty Mayz, and we were just talking about brunch on the break, actually, were we not? Yeah, we were talking about brunch. Yeah, you're right. It is lavish and decadent. I'm all about going to some brunch. You know what I do like about it is like the attitude for me with brunch is like, you know what? I'm going to drink early in the day, and I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
And like,
well, that's the thing is I feel like when people go to brunch, like you either do it up or don't go to brunch. Because like, it's like when people like go out to brunch, it's like, and I'll have scrambled eggs and toast. I'm like, motherfucker, that's breakfast. That's not brunch. I want to see vodka in your hand, and I want to see some crazy shit. That's what I want. You know?
Right. You know, so I live in Indiana, and I live right on the Indiana-Kentucky border. So basically my show is based out of Louisville, Kentucky, because I'm about, 5 minutes north. But Indiana just recently started selling alcohol, like for you to purchase in a store on Sunday, like about 2 or 3 weeks ago. So for me, going to brunch, you could always buy alcohol, liquor and beer and stuff like that in restaurants. So going to brunch to me was just like, you know what? I'm going to get drunk on the Lord's Day, and no one's going to stop me. My favorite brunch drink, the bromosa, and the bromosa is something that like has saved my life on numerous occasions. But it's just like a mimosa, except it's made with, a beer of your choosing. And especially if you're on tour, that's probably going to be a Pabst Blue Ribbon or, a Miller Lite. But here's a pro tip. I don't know if you ever partake in it, but if you're ever feeling a little overhung the next day, throw some beer in there and into a glass with some orange juice, drink it. And it's going to pep you right up, dude. The OJ is going to give you the energy and the vitamins, and the beer is going to give you that hair of the dog to keep you up and running.
Dude, I am a big believer in hair of the dog. I promise you that. That has gotten me through many times. You know what another thing to do is if you really like are hurting, especially if we're going to brunch, a really cold glass of white wine and just throw it back.
Man.
Like as if it were like a giant shot.
Man, I'm gonna have to try that because honestly, for me, the hardest part for me is to start drinking again after you've drank so much the night before. So having that orange juice filter is like, or even like a mimosa, basically just having like a filter that is between myself and the straight alcohol, something that will mask the taste. I'm like, this is the best way to deliver hair of the dog to my brain and my body without it tasting like beer and making me have to puke.
It's like a smell thing for me. Like,
exactly.
Again, like if I'm hungover, if I smell, because I think even beer itself like has a very distinct smell, and I think like the idea of smelling beer or like smelling liquor when you're hungover is just like, oh, I think it's a little too aggressive. But for me, like if I like just shoot back a cold glass of white wine as if it were like a giant shot, like that'll perk me up right back.
Dude. Also, too, we were talking.
I love the term bromosa. Why have I never heard that before? Bromosa. That's amazing.
Dude, that's a tour thing. You know, I don't know if bromosa has ever been on a marketplace. That's just what we always called it because it would always be like, you know, you and the band that you tour with on a early morning, like drinking them. You know, like what as you're.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You come out of the gas station like, all right, I got my orange juice. Like, you have a beer in the cooler or something like that. You know, but yeah. Bromosa. So take that with you and send that to all your friends out there.
This will be a new contender for the drink of choice from the band in the hungover mornings. That's fair enough, man.
There you go. Compliments of the Sean vs. Wild podcast. Don't say that I never gave you anything, Matty Mayz.
Yeah, no, listen, patent pending. This is all you, man.
So, yes, and then Oxymorrons' newest single. It's called Bromosa. Everybody. But yeah, in the song
we have to have you on as a feature just because you came up with the term.
Right, yeah, exactly. Guys, this is the thing, all right? Laugh all you want about drummers. Now you have on permanent record the Bromosa as of today's date and 8:56 p.m. It was my idea.
There we go.
Copyright it right now. But yeah, in that song, in the song you do mention some eating some cereal and
yeah.
What are some of your... I figured I would ask you this because I'm a huge cereal person. You seem to me like a real cereal person.
I am a big cereal person. It wasn't until I was like kind of in my younger adult life that I became a cereal person, though, because my mom, growing up, like my mom is a health nut. So when I was growing up, we only had the worst cereals. It was like...
Basic 4.
Special K. And like regular Cheerios. And like what was it called? Oh, what was it? Grape Nuts. Have you ever heard of Grape Nuts?
Oh yeah, Grape Nuts.
God.
Yeah, we had like Basic 4, which was like basically like granola. It's like a mix of like granola, cornflakes, those little nuts, and and that sort of thing. But yeah, we had Basic 4. But yeah, Grape Nuts, and yeah, there's nothing more lame than like cornflakes. Can we put sugar on it?
Oh, dude,
no.
Lame. You know, it's really funny. Do you ever have one of those moments where like you were doing something as a kid that you just assumed other people were doing, and then you like brought it up to your friends and like, nah, dude, that's super fucking weird. Like that your family does that.
Yes.
So
yes.
My mom would never buy anything in the house that she didn't like. You know what I mean? Like she didn't like. So and my mom, like I was a little bit lactose intolerant as a kid, so like she would just kind of buy like lactate milk for me.
Right.
But like if she forgot to buy lactate milk, like I would have cereal with water, and that never that never occurred to me how weird it was that I would do that growing up as a kid until like someone like literally I remember like being like 10 years old and we're talking about cereal. I was like, I always know if we're out of milk, you just use water. And they're like, what? That's not a thing.
Yeah, that's definitely...
if you're out of milk, you just like...
Definitely not
water.
a thing.
Like, no, it's definitely not a thing. And they're just like, dude, that's super weird that you do that you just use water instead of milk. That's like not a thing that anyone does. I'm like, no, my mom does it. And they're just like, yeah, and your mom's weird too. Like water with cereal.
Yeah.
You know, I literally like went back to the house like devastated. I'm like, Mom, we need to make sure we have milk in the house because I'm not going to be the weirdo kid eating milk or cereal with water anymore.
Yeah. I'm not going to be Milky Mayz, okay?
Oh, Milky Mayz.
But yeah, how great
that sounds good. I'll be
Milky Mayz. That's your new rap name. I'm thinking.
Oh God, that's I don't. Do I have to exclusively rap about cereal? If that's the case.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, why wouldn't you? But I will say this: one of my favorite lines in Friday is whenever Ice Cube goes to the kitchen and he's talking to his dad and he's like, "How come we ain't got no milk?" And then the dad just looks at him and goes, "You better put some water on that damn shit." So you know what? You're not the only one. I will say this: that is the second time in my life I've heard of someone basically having their parents convince them to put water on their cereal. That's the second time I've heard it in my life. So,
oh my goodness, no, I feel like I've had so many moments of that. Like again, love my mom. I love my upbringing, but again, because she didn't buy things that she didn't like. My mom also hates mayonnaise, and I didn't have mayonnaise for the first time until I was like 12, which is like a way too long for someone to not have mayonnaise before. And I remember I was like over at my aunt's house or something, and she's like, I was starving, I didn't eat lunch that day. She's like, I'll make you a turkey sandwich. And like I took a bite, I'm like, what is this thing that's making the sandwich so moist? And she's like, you mean mayonnaise? And I'm like, this is what mayonnaise tastes like? And she's like, yeah, you never had mayonnaise before? Like, have you ever had like chicken salad? I'm like, you mean like a grilled chicken salad? She's like, no, you never. I don't know, man.
That's great.
Listen, white people food is underrated if you've never had it before.
Dude. Welcome to my world, dude. That's what I was raised on it. Again, raised on it too much. That's why I was hoping Queens would give a smoking hot wife to every fat man that's there.
Yeah.
But
that's so funny,
dude. Let's go. Top three cereals. Let's get this on track here because I'm a big cereal fan. I want to hear your top three.
Okay, ready?
Yes.
Number one, Cinnamon Toast Crunch.
Oh, that's bold. Number two.
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is number one because I feel like that is a cereal, milk or no milk, is the best regardless. Like you don't need to eat it properly, like with a bowl, like with milk in it. Just regular, you can eat that out of the box. I feel that way very strongly.
See, I didn't even take into consideration a lack of milk, but then again, I've always had milk in my house growing up. Jeez.
Oh, nice trying to make me feel bad. Cool. Thanks, man. Some of us just have water in the house. Thank you very much.
It's the best. I choose Cinnamon Toast Crunch as number one. It's the best one with milk and water, and neither. So.
Okay, wait. Disclaimer: don't eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch with water. I will say that as a wholehearted statement.
What's your number two?
Okay, number two. I am a big fan. So I love Captain Crunch a lot. Mm-hmm. However, that shit tears up your mouth like you're eating razor blades.
Yes, it does.
There is not enough milk, which is why Cinnamon Toast Crunch goes like a little bit more of a preference over it. Mm-hmm. Just because if you just take a handful of Captain Crunch and just try to chew that shit, like you cut up your whole mouth. You just pulled a Joker and just like sliced all the inside.
You want to know how I got these scars? Didn't have any milk in the house.
Captain Crunch. Well, no, we got these scars. No milk in the house, and a box of Captain Crunch.
A box of the Crunch.
Yeah. Right. And for me, number three, this is a sleeper. Big fan of the Raisin Bran Crunch.
Dude, yes. That's so funny because Raisin Bran Crunch was going to make my list, oddly enough.
Really?
I really love cereal. Number one for me, number one for me is Peanut Butter Crunch. So Peanut Butter Captain Crunch specifically is my number one. Number two for me, I'm really into Golden Grams. So not very far off from Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Golden Grams too are another great cereal that you can just eat,
by yourself, yeah.
No milk, no water,
by
nothing.
Yourself or by yourself.
Dude, you can eat it by yourself. You can eat it with your friends, whatever, dude. It's a great.
I don't know how often people are like getting a group together to eat cereal.
I was gonna open up some cereal, dude, but all my friends fucking bailed on me. But yeah, Golden Grams.
Man eating cereal by himself in the morning.
Yeah, exactly. It must be a drummer thing. That guy's eating cereal by himself. Oh, that's the drummer of the band.
He must be a drummer eating cereal by himself. What a sad man.
Or creating
None
new
of his friends would come over for breakfast.
Right, exactly. And then Raisin Bran Crunch. Dude, Raisin Bran Crunch is the jam because you've got the flakes, you got the bran flakes, you've got the raisins, and then you got the crunch. I mean, it's all in the name there.
Yeah, dude. Who knew the crunch would be so powerful? Because regular Raisin Bran sucks so bad, dude.
It just, okay, so yeah, Raisin Bran's not like, so my biggest beef with like any kind of flakes is like the second that liquid touches them, they just disintegrate and fall apart and just become slop, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And the Raisin Bran
sure.
crunch, that crunch is keeping it 100 is what it's doing.
No, dude, it's like, it's the different textures. That's what it's all about. It's like, listen, I'll take some soggy flakes if you're gonna give me that big old round ball of whatever granola thing that's covered in sugar.
Yeah, it's like the Chex Mix of cereal, dude.
Yeah, man.
You know what I'm saying?
It's the Chex Mix of cereal.
I'm surprised Chex Mix hasn't thrown their name in the hat for that. You know, like, because you know how they always do like the frosted Chex Mix and stuff like that around the holidays or whatever, and I'm like, why haven't they not made like a cereal like that, just 4 weird pieces with some like sugar on it?
It's just regular Chex, but like you just put it in a bowl with milk.
Yeah, exactly. You're gonna love this. Oh, I forgot that Chex. You know what's funny?
Chex cereal.
I didn't even think about it, the fact that Chex cereal and Chex Mix are indeed the same brand. So now I feel like an idiot. But you know what? I'm just used to like the Chex cereal bits. I'm used to the rye bread little things, the little breadstick.
Oh, what am I thinking of? What was this? Munchies. You've had Munchies before, right? Like it's like
the chips,
Chex, but also like Doritos.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And like little hot Cheetos are in there. It's like all like a mess of everything.
Yeah. It's
I'm surprised cereals haven't done that.
Yeah,
like
dude.
a proper mix of everything.
I'm telling you, dude. It's funny, Munchies. It's like, oh, this is like Chex Mix, but for people that don't care about health, because it's like, what can we do to make this Chex Mix better? Let's add Doritos. How about some flaming hot Cheetos? What do you think about that? I would love it.
Yeah,
it sounds way better. So, but yeah,
for anyone who's listening, this is our idea now. No one can take this.
Yeah,
this is now claimed for today. We're going to make the I like this the term the Chex of cereal, even though Chex cereal.
This is like the Chex Mix of cereal. Chex already exists. Damn it. But yeah, see what happens. You put 2 drummers on a podcast together, and you know, what we're saying is going to make us money for years to come. Okay, you might be enjoying life now. We're going to be enjoying life later. We're planning for a future.
Exactly.
Right here, guys.
All right, we're all like, listen, man. You know, if once this takes off, like, I'll quit the band. You'll quit the podcast. We're just going to be making millions off of Chex.
Yeah, exactly. Just 2 best friends. 2 best friends holding cereal boxes. You know, it's going to be great. You'll see all of our stuff online.
We'll have our faces on the cover of the box too. Actually.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, are you? Do
Yeah,
you have? Do you have the Matty version or the Sean version? Oh, I have them both. And it'll just be us dunking. It'll be just like Wheaties, but it'll be like us dunking basketballs and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We'll put like our own trading cards, like me sitting on the couch playing Pokemon.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be like
there's only 2 cards.
It'll just be animated versions of us, so it'll look like Fruity Pebbles and shit. We'll be like Fred and Barney or any other mascot.
These are just all gold ideas right now.
Yeah,
so
exactly. I'm so glad the tape is rolling on this. Did you get all this? But yeah, I'll tell you what. Speaking of planning for the future, what does the future hold here for Oxymorrons? What do you guys have coming down the pipeline here? This will air probably within the 1st or 2nd week of April, so probably around April 10th.
Cool.
So what do you guys got going on here starting around April?
Well, you know, right now it's been a lot of time in the studio. So we have an EP called Gateway Drug that's coming out, looking like early summer. I don't want to give an actual month to it. Probably June, early summer is what I'm thinking of at the moment. You know, going back to what we're saying, Gateway Drug, and we're talking about genres of music. We use that term to talk about, hey, listen, we want to be the gateway drug for music. We want people who have never listened to hip hop before to get into it. We want people who've never listened to rock before to get into it, you know, and we want to be that opening statement for people before they kind of dive into a different world that they've never been a part of. So that's been the big thing right now. You know, we're probably going to hit the road again also early summer to promote the album. But, you know, we have a single coming out probably a little bit later in April, early May, called I Cannot Lose, which we're really excited about. So yeah, man, just a lot of like, again, we've been working really hard this year in the studio and working on these tracks. You know, I think a lot of 2016 was spent on the road, and a lot of 2017 has been spent in the room, in the studio, and just making all this new stuff. And, you know, 2018, we're ready to show all you guys what we've been working on.
That's awesome.
So we're really excited, man. You know, we feel we're really happy with this project. You know, still little bits and ends that we're trying to finish off, but, you know, it feels like us. It feels like, you know, we made the music that we wanted to make. And we're really excited just to show it to everybody.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to hear more about it. You've got a fan for life here. Well, obviously, fan for life and business partner for life once our serial conglomerate really, comes together. But
Exactly.
I wanted to touch on this just as we're wrapping up because I want to end on kind of a important note, high note, if you will. So don't blow it, bro. Whatever you do, please.
Oh man,
big
pressure.
Big pressure. Yeah. So a good friend of ours, both our mutual friend, how we hooked up here is basically. Chrissy worked with us in my band back in the day, and now she's working with Oxymorrons, and her teams are working with you guys. And she sent me an email, said, "Hey, I've got an awesome group. I checked it out. I agreed." And she was like, I think you and Matty will just really hit it off. So, and I was like, well, let's have a conversation, And in some of the press stuff that she had sent over to me, like the first thing. That's on a lot of these press releases. It's like Oxymorrons, and it says challenging cultural perceptions. And I think that's so great. You guys have a diverse group of people. You're challenging perceptions musically and a bunch of, socially. Can you just elaborate kind of on that and why that's kind of one of the main themes of the band?
Yeah, man, 100%. I think, challenging cultural perceptions is like, something that for a lot of us hits home. And I think why we've been gelling as we are as a group for so long, it's because, I think there's always this preconceived notion of how people are supposed to act.
Right.
Or the type of people you're supposed to be. You know what I mean? Like I can't speak directly for D and KI, who are two lead vocalists, but it's the idea of like blackness for them and what it means to be from Southside Jamaica, Queens, and what it means to like be like the black men that they are from this area. And everything is just like you're supposed to act a specific way. You're supposed to be this specific person. You're supposed to have this kind of aggression. You're supposed to have this type of personality. And I think it's all bullshit, man. And I think that, me personally, I can speak for, obviously I grew up like as a Latino male, you know what I mean? In Spring Valley, New York. And I was always the weird kid, for me, a little bit more like I'm a little bit more of a flamboyant guy and a little bit more silly, you know what I mean? Which is like, I guess, culturally acceptable for me as a Latino man where I grew up, you know what I mean? I listened to punk music for the majority of my teenage into young adult years. Well, not punk music, but just post-hardcore and punk and metal and like genres of music that I didn't, and I was the weird guy, you know what I mean? And everyone was the weird guy in our group. And I think this is something that's so interesting to us is we've always been kind of looked at as weird outcasts if we're not acting the way we're supposed to act. We're not listening to the music we're supposed to be listening to. We're not getting the jobs that we should be getting, or we should be having this specific type of track or lifestyle that's kind of like set in stone for us, and we've just been like, no, fuck that, man. Just like it's a lot about self-love. It's a lot about being confident in who you are. And, it doesn't really matter what anyone's telling you you're supposed to be like. And again, try not to get so sentimental about this, but, we have like these two lead vocalists who are brothers, and one of them just like loved classic rock and like played sports and video games. The other one was like, and the other one really loved Dragon Ball Z and anime and wrestling and listened to like even more weird music. And then we have me, the drummer, who is like this kind of like more of a scene kid, basically from this like Hispanic neighborhood that I grew up in. And then we have our other guitarist, Adam, and for him, he loves Zeppelin and loves being a hippie and doing all the things that a normal hippie would for who he is. And then we have Joe, who's our bassist, and he was a black rock guy, and he grew up in Philly, and he was all about Bad Brains and all of like that kind of hardcore, like black rock music. And he went through that. And then Jaffe, who's one of our newer members, again, same thing, another New York bound guy who wanted to like be different and wanted to change his hair and listen to whatever he wanted to. And I think that like this whole culmination of a band and what we're trying to preach first and foremost is that you do whatever you want, man. You know, and you know, I don't want to be like, oh, fuck the haters, but that's really kind of what it is, man. Like, there's no correct way to be who you are. And there's no incorrect way to be the type of person you were supposed to be. And I think, like, as a message for us as a band, like, everyone who's weird, please come on in, man. Like, like, come hang out, be part of the Oxy Nation, be weird with us, man. Like, I will talk your ear off about Pokemon and anime and metal for days looking like who I am. You know what I mean? And, you know, I think that nothing about the way you look or where you grew up should exactly depict who you want to be.
Yeah, man. That's awesome. It's deep.
Long rant, done.
Yeah, but, you know, I agree. We're all just, this is the secret to life, though, like I found out, you know, we're all just floating on this rock together. And, there is no right or wrong way, really, because everybody's just living life and they're doing it for the first time and maybe the only time, you know, as far as I know. Maybe it's the first time, maybe it's the only time. But, you know, that's the thing. There is no real set of instructions. So everybody's just kind of figuring everything out, you know. So you got to be able to just embrace it. You know what I'm saying? And if you're happy doing what you are doing and other people are negative towards that, then that's their problem. That's not your problem.
Exactly.
You know, so you're right, man.
I think that music's a good outlet for us. You know what I mean? Like I would consider us all like talented musicians who like play music, but I think that there's something really deep to what we've been doing. You know, it all comes ironically through our name, Oxymorrons. You know what I mean? And maybe it wasn't trying to be so like point blank on a piece of paper before, but you know, it's never felt more true. You know what I mean? Like, we aren't who you think we are, you know. Mm-hmm. Like everyone has so many layers. And I think that within music, there's been like this idea of boxes that has become so important, you know what I mean, to labels and to listeners, and like, are you pop? Are you rock? Are you rap? Like, you know what, at the end of the day, like, who cares, man? You know what I mean? It's like, we want to make the music that we love. And we want to make the music that we are like proud of making. And I think that like maybe it's music on like a very first like surface level, but it kind of just speaks true to like who we all are as people in general too.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. Well, and tell everybody too, you know, where can people find Oxymorrons online? Where can people check out your band more? Because I know that there's going to be a lot of people listening that's going to want to follow up with you guys. Yeah, dude.
Oxymorrons, we're on like all things that are social media, you know. Again, I say it's 2 R's, not one, for the name. So Oxymorrons. Oxymorrons, if you want to like keep it super Latino for no reason. But yeah, no. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you know, all that stuff. We're on SoundCloud, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Amazon. All things that are the internet.
Fantastic. And I'll be posting those links too.
Yeah, man. You know, I just thought back for a second. I don't think I've ever spelt out the entire name of Oxymorrons before, and I just like kind of questioned myself if I spelt it correctly. I was like, I know there's 2 R's, but
did I do it? Nailed it.
Don't let me.
Don't worry, I'll be posting all the links, guys, so you'll have all the direct links in the show notes, and you know, I'll make sure it's spelled correctly. I'll make sure it gets where it needs to go, so don't you worry about that. But dude, Matty,
thanks, because of my inadequate spelling.
What's great about this podcast, man, is it seems like we've been old friends, and this is the first time we've ever talked before in our lives. So this past hour,
this is kind of odd.
Yeah, dude.
But awesome. Yeah. Awesomely odd.
I agree. So this last hour has been a real pleasure. And guys, if you enjoyed it, of course, check out Oxymorrons. And if you enjoy the show, which something tells me you have because you made it all the way through the episode, for crying out loud. But you can always check out Sean vs. Wild. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. It's on Stitcher, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, wherever you do your social media. It's on there. Wherever you get your podcast, it is on there. as well. And yeah, Matty, I thank you so much for coming on the show and doing this. We got to do this again. We got to hook up sometime next time I'm in NYC, or if you're ever in
yeah, man, for
looking
sure.
for a Louisville date, you let me know.
Love to, yeah, man, little cereal date.
Yeah,
little cereal date.
Let's do brunch.
Let's full circle. Let's do brunch.
Yeah, and guys, remember, there's no right or wrong way to live your life, but there is a wrong way to eat cereal, and that is with water. So
never gonna live this down or bring this up.
I love it. Well, guys, again, Matty, thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and this has been the Sean vs. Wild podcast.
Thank you for listening, DNN.